Clemson went 10-4 last year, 7-1 in ACC play. They were second there. It took an upset loss by Miami against Syracuse that allowed Clemson in the ACC championship game. They took advantage of the opportunity, beat SMU, who was 8-0 in ACC play. And then Clemson, after winning that game, played in Austin against Texas, lost that game, but you saw signs of hope. Clemson's offense hung 28 points on their own, 28 of them, against Texas. Or maybe not 28, I think it was 24. Yes, 24. They hung 24 on Texas's defense. And that is impressive on its own when you think about the fact that Ohio State only put up 21 offensive points, and they finished with the number one offense per FPI's efficiency metrics. Arizona State, it took Texas choking for Arizona State's offense to put up the amount of points they did. And then you get into some of the film and the fact that Clemson was injured in that game and they were playing in Austin, and Garrett Riley entering year 3 and who Klubnik is and those receivers are. And I thought to myself, well, that offense did a good job against Texas's defense. In hindsight, they did a better job than the Ohio State offense, better job than the Arizona State offense, and both of those offenses, especially the Ohio State one, had several X-factor players. And unlike those two teams, where Arizona State loses their biggest player, Scatabo, and while Ohio State returns Jeremiah Smith, they lose Judkins, Henderson, Howard, their best offensive lineman by a mile, and Donovan Jackson, and also Emeka Egbuka, although I think they'll replace him pretty easily because Ohio State's just so loaded at wide receiver. Clemson brings back everyone except for Phil Maffa. They didn't have Phil Maffa in that playoff game, and they didn't have him for part of the ACC championship game. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership, or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment. And with the O-line they bring back and with Garrett Riley's system, I think they could plug in almost anyone at running back and have success there. I am positive with everything about Clemson except for the run game. That I'm kind of neutral on, thinking they'll easily figure it out because the talent and scheme they have, but it's probably not something that's going to be spectacular. I only lean negative a little bit at guard, and this account on Twitter called Clemson Addict brings up this good point about how in big games this team has really struggled recently. And that's a concern for me. They should have beaten South Carolina. They should have beaten the brakes off of South Carolina, talent-wise, and the fact they had home field advantage. And they didn't. They should have crushed SMU, similar logic, via talent, and they didn't. And they should have played more competitively with Georgia, factoring in the high school talent they recruit, and they didn't. They shouldn't have lost to Louisville that way. They should have played Texas maybe a little bit tighter in that first half. You get the gist. I mean, they shouldn't have lost to, nearly lost to Pittsburgh or look that way against Virginia Tech, for example. The fact that Miami was power rated ahead of them was sort of an embarrassment, if I'm being honest, with the talent Clemson has. But I am positive about this team in a variety of ways, but the performance in big games does make me worry a bit. The good news for the Tigers is that their big games are mostly at home, and the ones that are on the road are against teams where Clemson has a massive experience and talent edge. Think about week 1 against LSU. Clemson returns more than LSU. They're not as portal reliant. They're more talented, and Kelly has never won an opener as the LSU head coach. It's week 1. Week 2, they play Troy. Week 3, they play at Georgia Tech. They have more experience than Georgia Tech, more talent, and while Georgia Tech may be able to run the ball or successfully stop the run against Clemson, Clemson will have an air superiority advantage. They play Syracuse week 4, on the bye week 5, or after the bye on week 5. They play 2 back-to-back road games at North Carolina and at Boston College. Much more talented than them. They host SMU in week 8. Week 9, they get a bye. Week 10, they host Duke. Week 11, they host Florida State. Week 12, they play at Louisville. Week 13, they host Furman. And week 14, they travel to South Carolina. It's a schedule that per FPI is ranked 40th nationally. I talked about Alabama's schedule in the last segment and how that's one of the toughest schedules in America. And that's why I have Alabama losing 2 or 3 games, more likely than not. And maybe they can go 11-1, but there's also a path where an Alabama team that's top 10 could go 8-4 with that schedule. If they lose a bunch of one-score games or maybe one critical player gets injured. With Clemson, you don't have that type of schedule, and that combined with the experience, and with Riley being in year 3, and with Allen being an upgrade over Wes Goodwin, tells me that this team can go 12-0, and that's realistic. And their realistic floor is probably going 10-2. You don't play Georgia. You don't. So there's no likely blowout loss. That's one of the games I saw coming from a mile away last year is Kirby Smart has been an infinitely better coach than Swinney has since 2021, if not since 2020 itself, the COVID year, the beginning of this decade. His staff is way better right now. His talent is far better. He's done a better job of using the portal. He plays in the tougher conferences, so he's usually more battle-tested. That was a clear blowout from a mile away last year. There's no game like that on this schedule. So there's no auto loss. I mean, you think that LSU should be favored over Clemson? I don't think so. Should South Carolina, with all they lost? No, of course not. If Clemson could just stop the run last year on defense, if they had Tom Allen as last year's defensive coordinator, they'd probably win that game. Not saying it's a guaranteed win this year because, playing in Williams-Brice Stadium is quite the challenge, although Dabo Swinney hasn't lost in that stadium in quite a bit. But regardless, the schedule is very manageable, especially with the players that Clemson has. And let's name some of them. I've mentioned before that I think Clemson is about to be surpassed by Miami in terms of roster talent. And I think that will be the case definitely after this season when Clemson loses a bunch and Miami likely brings back more on top of bringing in better recruiting classes for really the previous 3 years and using the portal more. But Clemson, from my perspective, looking at my ACC teams, all ACC teams, has 9 players on my first team. Now, my first teams are bigger than most. Same with my second team, third team, fourth team. I also have a 5th and 6th team. So I have more teams and more spots per team than most do, but still only good players are represented here, especially with super conferences. I have Avion Terrell at corner on my first team all ACC. I have the same with Will Helt and TJ Parker at edge, with Peter Woods at defensive tackle. I have the top 3 wide receivers in the ACC belonging to Clemson: TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco Jr., and Antonio Williams. I would not be shocked if they all finished the year with 1,000 receiving yards. That would not shock me. Not one bit. I have Blake Miller at tackle on my first team all ACC, and it's the same with Cade Klubnik at quarterback. Some other players are Gideon Davidson at running back. I think he's going to have a good year as a true freshman. Should start. Ryan Linthicum at center. Harris Sewell at guard. Tristan Lay at tackle. Also have Olsen Pat Henry at tight end. Think he'll replace Bringingstool quite well. DeMonte Capehart at D tackle. Same with Stephalon Green. Also Jaheim Lawson at edge. Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz on my second team at linebacker. Ricardo Jones and Khalil Barnes. And in addition to Avion Terrell at corner, I have Jaden Lucas and Ashton Hampton representing the All-ACC teams. And kicker Nolan Hauser outside of the honorable mention team. So in the top 4 teams. Pretty impressive, I would say. I don't quite think that at certain positions Miami has the top depth in the ACC anymore, but they have the best starting roster. They do. And they have depth in positions that I think matter more than the positions where Miami has depth. For example, I think Miami, the chief challenger for Clemson this year in the ACC, has far better depth at running back, has far better depth at tight end, and may have better depth at some positions on defense. Think about Reuben Bain Jr. at D end, and then all the older players Miami is there too. Maybe they have more playable depth. I don't know. They can contend, I think, at linebacker and corner there against Clemson too. And I think their O-line might be deeper. But a lot of those are maybes outside of running back and tight end. And I think Clemson right now is deeper at QB, deeper at wide receiver. I think they right now are more proven at center. They are deeper at D tackle by a mile. Could be deeper at edge, linebacker, and corner. And I think they're deeper at safety. So this is the premier team and program in the ACC right now as it stands. And that is why, with 80% of their production coming back, which is first nationally, and given a preseason SP Plus rating of a 23.3, it's why I'm picking Clemson to, win the vast majority of their games. That's why I'm picking that to happen. And before we get there, I want to talk about some predictions that I have for this season. My mild prediction, we're going to be going on a Scoville scale here. So mild, medium, hot, scorched, and hellfire levels of heat for these predictions. My mild pick is that the Tigers make the college football playoff for the second year in a row. I think this is pretty easy. Medium one is that Clemson goes undefeated in its out-of-conference schedule. That means LSU, Troy, Furman, and South Carolina. I'm sorry, but I think Clemson's beating you, and I think all of those games except for South Carolina, Clemson will win by double digits. I mean, those games, I think, will all be dominant victories. Obviously, Furman and Troy. LSU's a bit bolder given the current spread. I really do not like LSU there at all. My hot prediction is that Cade Klubnik solidifies himself as the number one quarterback in the nation, which means trip to New York, I'd say somewhat likely. What about Heisman? I have not made my Heisman pick yet, but I think Jeremiah Smith, depending on how Miami's offense does, maybe Carson Beck, Arch Manning. You also got to think about Drew Aller or one of the Penn State running backs or one of the Notre Dame running backs, for example, or maybe Julian Sayin, quarterback for Ohio State. There's a lot of different candidates, but I think Klubnik is up there. Also got to consider DJ Lagway and Lenora Sellers if they can carry their teams to a lot of wins with those schedules. But I think Klubnik's going to be the number one QB this year, and then Aller, Sellers, and Lagway will contend with him there. And just on the outside looking in, I think Manning and Mendoza could as well. My scorching prediction, by the end of the season, Clemson will field the top 10 offense and top 10 defense. This is bold because when you factored in the big games and weighed them more, as you should, and power ratings don't always do that, Clemson did not have a top 10 offense. It was close, probably top 15, top 20, had games where it looked like a top 10 offense, but in the big games, they scored 3 points against Georgia. They scored 14 points against South Carolina. They kicked a bunch of field goals and got a ton of them blocked by Louisville. And against Texas, it was a good game, but they only scored 24 points. They did. And the Ohio State and Arizona State offenses that also scored against the Texas defense in the playoffs, none of those were close to generational offenses either. Just look at the efficiency metrics. 2024 was a down year, and the fact that Clemson couldn't take advantage of that with their talent, I think is a little bit concerning. And then the defense was not even close to top 10. At the end of the year, it wasn't even top 25. Yeah, they had top 25 talent, but they couldn't stop the run to save their life. I mean, Texas, I've made this joke with one of my Texas buddies before. What Texas would do is they just get up to the line at different points, and Ewers would look, and he would just change the play. It's like run to the left or run to the right. It's outside zone or an outside run, and then boom, you have a 30-yard gain or a touchdown. They couldn't stop the run to save their life, and it's not like they faced a bunch of competent passing offenses either. They just weren't a great unit. So I think predicting both the offense and defense to take massive steps forward, especially in big games, because I do think Clemson is going to win some big games this year, it's a scorching prediction. It's hot, whether you like it or not. My boldest prediction, though, is that Clemson goes undefeated before the college football playoffs and they get a first-round bye. I don't think LSU is stopping them. I don't think Georgia Tech will. If there is a team who's most likely, I think, to stop Clemson it's going to be Georgia Tech or Louisville. Could be SMU. I say that because I like all of their line of scrimmage more than LSU's. I do. I like LSU's outside talent and depth more than those teams, but I think the way to beat Clemson is to physically manhandle them up front. South Carolina has a much better shot of doing that than LSU with Dylan Stewart, with the fact that, their offensive line, while it hasn't been great under Beamer, is leveling up in talent, and I have faith in their D-line at this point, and their defensive coordinator, Clayton White. I think he's a really good DC. But I don't think anyone's going to stop Clemson in the regular season. Who will stop Clemson is a team who matches up well with them in the college football playoffs if they have to play a team like that. I'm picking this team, yes, in Clemson, to go 13-0, to win the ACC, beating out Miami, who will be the runner-ups, and receive a first-round bye. This is going to be a impressive, wickedly good team. Now, I think they'll have some close wins. I don't think this will be a Clemson team that is better than any of the teams spanning 2015 to 2020. I don't think it'll be better than any of those teams, but that's really the case with everyone. No one outside of the programs who are down or who are top 5 spenders. So Texas has better depth than they did in the 2010s because they were down and their pockets are bigger than everyone else. It's the same with Oregon. Oregon wasn't down, but they were down at times, but not for the whole duration. But they have bigger pockets than everyone else. And they have an alpha recruiter, not a guy who's trying to punch above his weight class in the West Coast. But outside of really those programs, maybe a Texas Tech, or maybe if, Michigan gets Larry Ellison involved, they could maintain the depth that they did or that they used to. It's hard for almost any school in America to have the same depth they did just a few years ago. And I think Clemson's in that category. I do. But so, again, is everyone else. So, relative to past teams, this team won't be the Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence teams. But then again, Ohio State won't have its 2019 team, or maybe even its 2020 team again. Georgia will not have the teams of its early 2020s or some teams of its 2010s that had crazy depth. Alabama won't field the 2010 style teams again, or the 2010 style teams. So relative to every given season where you're weighing things by what happened in the season and not comparing seasons, this Clemson team, I think, can easily achieve what those teams in the 2010s did. Easily, given the state of college football. And their easy schedule may not prepare them to beat high-quality teams. It will save them from injuries. So that's kind of the weighing your costs is, do you prefer to be more battle-tested? Or do you prefer to not get banged up? I think that's the new reality of college football in a lot of ways. And Clemson has enough good teams to where I think they can get battle-tested. They're also very experienced, so they could probably play at an absolute cupcake schedule and still be prepared for the best teams because a lot of those players have played Georgia. Some of them, thinking 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There are some redshirt seniors on that team who've played Georgia twice, both in 2024 and 2021. They played Tennessee in 2022 in that Peach Bowl. They've played Notre Dame twice. Some of those players have. Cade Klubnik has, for example. So I think this team is going to be healthy, going to be battle-tested. Will they be the best team in America? They could be. I'm not picking it, but I see the logic behind it, for sure. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description. Join the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.